Special Agent Buhanda and Captain Leslie, welcome to New Mexico in Focus.
Thank you.
Special Agent, why don't you let us know and tell us a little bit about how this initiative using the Navajo language came about?
So the initiative was really to try to reach the communities a little better than we've done in the past. So what we're trying to focus on is trying to get the communication out there in a form that made sense. So we're great about talking and putting things together and putting messages out as far as an organization, but we knew we were missing the one piece, which is that we weren't writing in the Navajo language, that we weren't communicating in the Navajo language. So our primary focus was just do just that, was to be able to create the posters that we had already done, and we've done a good job for over 100 years, but making them posters that were in the Navajo language, and then taking it a step forward, because we realized in this process that a lot of people don't read the Navajo language, but they speak it very well. So then it was purposeful for us to get that message out in the Navajo language as well, through broadcast and primarily through radio.
And Captain Leslie, we know that the Navajo language was used, it's well known for its use in World War II with the Navajo Code Talkers as an unbreakable code, and how difficult, and there must have been some challenges trying to get some information or even words for the FBI use.
Yes, it's a unique language. We sit there and we discuss that. The Navajo Nation is 25,000 square miles. So you have different locations, people who grew up in different parts of the locations. There's Sling Navajo and there's not. And I used to sit there and I used to listen to my grandmothers. One is from Arizona, one is from in Arizona. And there's different meanings to certain things, and they would chuckle and start, like little children. And they'll say, okay, what does this word mean over there? This means this and that. And it's pretty unique. The Navajo language is unique in itself, and also in writing, because it's pretty hard to write as well. So.
Yeah, we weren't going to try to guess either. We just went straight to the experts and had them kind of help us out, and we used people that were Navajo to be able to do this for us. The FBI is getting better, becoming a little bit more diverse, but we're far from being there, so we rely on our partnership.
And the ads are both on the radio, posters, and there was some audio announcements that later went on with the posters. Have the ads been successful in gathering any information?
So unfortunately, not quite there yet, but it doesn't mean that we're going to stop. We're going to continue. I think with the next level, what we're trying to get at is to be more at the events. So it's one thing to be able to put a message out there, whether it's on a poster or to put an ad on a radio, but I think there's still that piece, and I think it's very unique, like in my background, being of Mexican descent, and obviously understanding that we're all different, and sometimes we have to make those connections in person. So that'll be the next level of being able to continue that messaging, not only through the poster, through the ads we've done, but now going and having conversations within the community at the event, so that we can continue to message that same theme and be able to just put a face to it, right? So let's build some trust so that you can feel comfortable reaching out to the FBI and providing us any information that's going to help us find any of these missing individuals and some of these murder investigations that have been ongoing for way too long.
And you bring up a good point, Captain Leslie. We know in Native communities across the country there is a mistrust of law enforcement often. So how is the Navajo Nation law enforcement and the FBI working together to try to build trust with Navajo people?
It goes back to law enforcement academies, in my perspective. When you tell somebody you're going to do something, you have to do it. That's where your trust begins. If you're going to tell somebody you're going to be back and interview people or come back and look into this, you have to do it. They'll remember that. And if you don't do it, then the trust starts, okay, they're just coming and, they're not going to live up to what they're saying. And so when you start building that rapport and that trust with the people, it starts coming together. And it's the Navajo people, especially the elderly, they're really quiet, but they listen, they learn, they're observant. And when you start talking to them, being respectful is number one. And that's where the cultural sensitivity classes come in for the FBI agents who are assigned to the region. That comes in very handy, and we go out there and we'll tag team interviews and work that way and build that trust with grandma and grandpa, or even the elderly, the aunties. the uncles. So, that is a big, it's a momentum builder. That's what gets the case headed in the right direction for these missing people.
And so how is the FBI building trust with not only Navajo people, but there's a lot of different Pueblo communities in New Mexico as well, and Apache nations?
So we're doing that in all the different areas. It's the same thing. We're not trying to put the wrong person in front of these communities, because we've learned over the years that just doesn't build trust, just like the captain said. What we're trying to do is put the right people so that they get the right message across. And if we have those individuals within not only just the FBI, but just law enforcement in general, partnering together is a huge thing, because we want to be able to go there and get the right message, because that's the only way we can build on the trust and ultimately get accomplished what we're trying to get accomplished, which is to bring some resolve. And we're not going to do it. We're just trying to get in there and force people to give us information that don't necessarily have trust for us. And if we build on that, then we're going to get there. And sensitivity training, like Captain mentioned, that's something that the FBI has been big on. But really what we're pushing now is we just need to have more of the community and the people that we serve be like us inside the walls as well, right? Hire more of those individuals so that they can go back. And they already have that, right? To them, that's not an obstacle, because this is where they grew up. These are their aunties, these are these uncles, these are their grandparents. So they already have that in place, and that is how we make a difference.
And Captain Leslie, there are a lot of issues when it comes to law enforcement issues on the Navajo Nation and other tribes across the country, jurisdiction issues.
Correct.
I mean, we can go down a list of
I live
how many, just the challenges and being a sovereign nation as well. So how important is the FBI when it comes to investigating these cases?
It's very important. They're a big, helpful resource. The resources that we don't have on the reservation, the Navajo Indian Reservation, or any reservation, the resources that they supply, the information, background searches, and everything that involves an investigation. You start off with a missing person, and you start working from there backwards to when the last time person was seen. How do we know where this person has lived? And when you have people that move on and off the reservation, they don't just live in one area. I've had people off the Navajo Reservation. I work in District 3, which is the Crown Point agency. And when we're looking for a certain person to run a search, a background in them with the FBI's assistance, we'll find that they move continuously in the city of Albuquerque, Grants, the housing communities around off the reservation. And they don't live there for too long. They move, and wouldn't be odd. We're on the right track. They're in New Mexico, then boom, now they're living in Phoenix. So it's like, okay, so we have to send people down there to start doing interviews around that area as well. So it really comes in handy, the resourcefulness.
And anything to add to that?
It's exactly. I mean, we have to leverage each other's resources. There's some different things that we're looking at from the FBI piece. So the one part, and it's in our name, right? We investigate things. That's one of the troubling things that we've had in past years, is that how does the FBI, that primarily focus on an investigation, deal with the missing piece, right? So, and I know there's and rightfully so, a lot of criticism about why aren't we doing more on the missing piece of this big initiative, and it's primarily because it's not really something that we can put our hands around it. So as of recent, this office has taken it upon themselves to get those kind of thresholds in place so that we can focus on the missing piece and try to help our partners to try to locate some of these individuals, because you don't know really at the end what it is that we're dealing with. These might be truly missing individuals. They might lead to an investigation because we find out facts about something as to how that happened, why they're missing, was there foul play, these types of things. So there is a piece that we can put our arms around, but hopefully going forward, and this will be happening in the next several months, we'll have a kind of a platform to be able to work with our law enforcement partners to really start putting our pieces and all our tools into place to help on the missing and not just the murdered indigenous piece.
And the state of New Mexico is one state that does have an initiative already to address missing and murdered indigenous persons cases. The Navajo Nation, working with both New Mexico, Arizona, Utah, and even in Colorado. Right. How do you see work to become more efficient when it comes to missing and murdered indigenous Navajo people?
It's really getting out to out to the, putting word out on the public, to the public, what it really entails. And when I say we've worked cases where people say they're missing, and you have, when I heard the term, is it a legitimate missing person, I kind of scratched my head. I said, what do you mean? And I started thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, okay. What they mean is that has the person really gone missing where nobody knows what happened to them? Or did this person just disappear and nobody doesn't want anybody to bother them?
And if the public does have some information on these homicide cases or cold cases, where do they go? What do they do?
I mean, they could always contact the FBI, 1-800-CALL the FBI or tips.fbi.gov. That information will get funneled. If it's something that we need to pass on to Navajo Nation, Navajo PD, we'll do that. If it's something that we need to follow up on, a little bit that was mentioned is, so the one good piece is people do sometimes wander off the reservation. They move on to different areas, different parts of the country. And part of this platform that we're trying to build is so that we make those connections so that we can reach out to these individuals and close the connection. And it might be just like it was explained, that these individuals wanted to leave for whatever reason. They wanted to leave, so they, in their mind, they're not missing. They chose to. But if we make that connection and then we update our records, this way the next time that inquiry comes again, whether it's from the family or someone else, they can see when they reach out to any law enforcement agency, when they query, that this individual is not missing. This individual chose to start a new life somewhere else, or whatever the case may be. Or there's a contact that can be given out and say you can reach this person at this number. And so therefore they can have that closure for whatever that case may be. And there's some others that are just going to be that start off as, as a missing person, and you succumb to the elements or an actual investigation because there was foul play. And that's something that we can continue to work regardless of whether we're talking about somewhere on the reservation or off the reservation on whatever part of the country that may be.
And what can the public do on the Navajo Nation if they have some information?
They can call the police department. Their phone numbers are listed. Each police district has their own phone number. They can call there, and even if it's a missing person off the reservation, they can call us, and we'll get in touch with the local agency where that person actually originated from or the report originated from. So we do work together with a lot of agencies that are off the reservation. Things have changed for the better from my perspective, from when I first started to now. Everybody takes everything, we try to take everything as serious as, because, that's somebody's loved one. Doesn't matter what their medical or even if they're not wanting to be found, or if they're alcoholics, whatever it is, that's still, I always tell them, that's somebody that you guys love. And that's the way I want to look at everything.
And when it comes to this initiative in the Navajo language, what's next?
So what's next is right now is just kind of that platform I was talking about. So we've been working with all the local tribal partners, to include BIA, to pull everyone's records. So everyone's done a good job in their all respective lanes, building these databases of individuals that have gone missing or these unsolved murder investigations. But everything's done differently. We all have different ways of how we categorize and how we collect data. So we're trying to take all that data and make it streamlined so that a search on, regardless of how I search, will give you some results if there's something to be had in that information. So we're cleaning up that data, and then we're just going to offer it up. We're starting with the state of New Mexico. This is where we're home. This is our home, right? We want to make sure that we start here. We have a good test bed here to make sure that we have all our data like it needs to be, and then start to follow up on some of those leads to those to try to find and locate these individuals. It's all about bringing some closure to the people that care about these individuals. These are their loved ones. These are the people they consider to be the most important things in their life. We want to make sure that we do everything we possibly can. We don't want them to feel that that you shouldn't go to law enforcement for whatever the reason might be or whatever the reservation might be, because we're here to do the right thing. And yes, there's always some bad apples in there, but we want to go ahead and overcome that. I think I would speak for both of us that there's more good that there is ever bad now, and we're all on the right path to do the right things in the right way. And if we continue on this, what I think is going to be great for not only the state but for all of us all together, is that now we have a good starting point.